Peace and Black Power. We are back with another episode of the Fundamentals of Critical Thinking and Analysis. We are covering 3 concepts on this episode: the Dunning-Kruger Effect, fantasy projection, and ad hominems. Let's go ahead and get straight to it. The Dunning-Kruger Effect comes from a 1999 paper by 2 Cornell psychologists, David Dunning and Justin Kruger. And what they find is that this effect is a cognitive bias in which people wrongly overestimate their own knowledge or ability within a given area. And this tends to occur due to a lack of self-awareness, which is necessary for accurately assessing one's own skills and attributes, right? And this effect is related to 2 specific types of overconfidence. There's over-precision, and this occurs when someone is exaggeratedly certain that their answers are correct. So this is the instance of the person who presents a particular argument and is absolutely certain without any hint of a doubt that they are correct, right? We can consider that the type of overconfidence as over-precision, right? These individuals may seem highly competent and persuasive in their arguments. This is due to their demonstration of confidence, right? They may come off well-spoken, or they may have a particular energy in a space, and that energy or that ability to speak is what ends up establishing this apparent confidence, right? But really, this is an instance of over-precision. And then the other type of overconfidence is overestimation. Now, this is the discrepancy between someone's skills and their actual attributes and abilities and their perception of those skills. So we can think of overestimation if, let's say, this bar, right, this level right here represents someone's actual skills in typing, but their perception of their skill in typing is up here. That's an example of an overestimation. So let's say I'm the person who believes that they are this good at typing when really I'm this good, right? I'm engaging in a particular overconfidence, and that's the overestimation type of overconfidence. And it's these 2 types that contribute to this Dunning-Kruger effect. Again, this is an issue of metacognition, right? Metacognition is defined as the ability to analyze one's own thoughts / performances, right? So again, in the case of learning how to type and being good at typing, my skill level is here, but I perceive my skill level to be here. I'm engaging in an incorrect, right, analysis or a measure of my skill when it comes to typing. And there are very simple ways to counter this effect within ourselves, within our peers, within our groups, and what have you. And really the simple way to put it in terms of how to counter this, how to avoid this, would be to honestly and routinely question your knowledge base and the conclusions that you draw, rather than simply blindly accepting them, right? And then challenge yourself, right, to keep probing and apply a certain level of scrutiny to your own scholarship and your own study, right? Find the areas where you could potentially be wrong, or you may have missed a particular area of analysis, right? And always keep reading, right? So this Dunning-Kruger effect, I like to sort of equate it to when folks are loud and wrong, right? Oftentimes we see this often on social media, on the internet, just in general, right? People will have these very strong opinions, and they will, express them in a strong way, right? In a loud way, and end up ultimately being wrong. And nothing could be a better solution to being loud and wrong than just to keep reading, right? So that's the Dunning-Kruger effect. Now we have fantasy projection, and this is a very simple yet a very prevalent and dangerous logical fallacy that we all engage in, right? This fantasy projection is when we confuse subjective experience for objective reality, right? And to just delve into a bit what subjective experience is referring to and how it's defined, subjective experience refers to the emotional and the cognitive impact of a human experience, as opposed to that experience in an objective fashion, right, in which the actual events take place, right? While something objective is tangible and can be experienced by others, a subjective experience is produced by an individual's own mind, right? The way that this becomes the fantasy projection is oftentimes it is very emotionally charged. It is very demanding in terms of one's own individual subjective experience being pushed as the objective universal reality or the universal standard across the board. And of course, that's incorrect and even dangerous to do. For example, we could say, let's say I get in an accident while riding my bicycle, right? And I fall off my bicycle and it explodes. Hypothetical example, right? That subjective experience can lead me to think, wow, bicycles are dangerous, they explode. That's the conclusion that I draw. Where I would be making an error is if I were to apply my own subjective experience to objective reality. So let's say the next day, a peer of mine says, hey, McConan, I'm about to buy a bike. And I say, no, don't buy a bike, those explode. That's me trying to apply my own subjective experience to objective reality, right? That is in the example, it isn't necessarily that big of a deal, right? But this becomes a big deal, this fantasy projection, particularly when we are having dialogue on our people and our conditions, right? Oftentimes you have individuals who have very strong and very valid, right, subjective experiences that they have gone through, and they have impacted that individual a particular way. And this isn't to discredit the inherent value, right, or the potential constructiveness behind harnessing, right, subjective experience. Where the danger lies is when we try to apply it as that objective universal standard, that universal reality, as saying, well, this happened to me, therefore it is factual, it happens to everyone. That's just a dangerous thing to do, right? And again, this is very, very prevalent online. We see it a lot in social media exchanges, right? One person goes through something and now they have interpreted that experience and basically cast a wide net and said, this experience that happened to me is a universal law, right? That's a fantasy projection, and it can lead to very dangerous and very erroneous conclusions being drawn about our people and our conditions, right? And then we have the ad hominem. This is very simple. This is when one attacks the person, right, rather than challenging the argument. And oftentimes this personal attack is very irrelevant. It has nothing to do whatsoever with the argument at hand, right? This is when in the instance of, let's say I'm having an exchange with an individual, and I say, well, I think apple juice is better than orange juice, right? This person disagrees with me, and rather than challenging my argument and saying why I may be incorrect, right, they simply say, well, you're stupid. That's an ad hominem attack. There's no relevance, right, to that response to the argument that's being posed. And again, this while the examples that I give may seem trivial and insignificant, the effects of ad hominem attacks, of fantasy projections, of being loud and wrong are very real, and they have very dangerous consequences, right, for all parties involved, truthfully. So when it comes to ad hominems, we need to be sure that we are doing our best as critical thinkers and analyzers, right, that we are not reaching a particular point in an exchange to where we are actually throwing personal attacks and insults, right, at our opponent or our colleague or what have you. And this actually leads me to a good quote from one of our mighty ancestors, Kwame Ture. He says that when you begin to attack the person, you admit you are incapable of attacking their political ideology. So when it comes to ad hominems, right, we can think of putting ourselves in a situation where we are in a debate or an exchange, right? And this person, you just posed your argument, you presented your facts, your evidence, all that good stuff. And that person's only response to you is, well, that's why your head is so big, or that's why, your breath stinks, right? These are indications that that person has nothing for you in terms of actually challenging or refuting the arguments that you have presented, right? And there are ways to really constructively deal with ad hominem attacks, right? We can counter these by first pointing out the irrelevance. So in the instance of me saying, I believe apple juice is better than orange juice, and the person that I'm saying that to says, well, you're stupid. How I could counter that is by saying, how does you claiming me to be stupid have any relevance to the argument at hand, right? Another way you can counter it is by responding directly to the attack, right? Saying, well, what makes you say that, right? What have I done to make you feel that you have to resort to attacking my character, right? My person, right? To defend your argument, right? And again, while the demonstration, right, the examples that we give here may seem insignificant and they may seem small, these fallacies have very real consequences. We need to be sure that we are first, right, checking ourselves and holding ourselves accountable to our words, to our arguments, right, ensuring we are demonstrating the sharpest level of critical thinking, the sharpest level of analysis. We never resort to attacking the person that we are engaged in the debate with, right, or the challenge with. Never do that. We are sure to check ourselves whenever we may approach that threshold, right, of mistaking our subjective experience as objective reality, right? We need to be sure we are keeping our emotions in check. Not to say we should all the way subdue them or erase them, right, from our thinking or analysis. We can use them, but we need to use them in their proper time and place and manner, right? And then with the Dunning-Kruger effect, this is just a good way we can measure ourselves, right, to continue reading, to challenge ourselves on our positions, right, and to be sure we are not being loud and wrong, right? And again, we present this information not to, make any of us feel like we're in the hot seat, like, dang, is he talking to me? Or, what am I supposed to do with this, right? The goal with this is to really ensure that as African people, we are demonstrating the sharpest of critical thinking, the sharpest of rigorous analysis, not to walk around in our circles and say, look at me, I'm the sharpest critical thinker in the land. No, so we can build intellectual muscle and collective critical consciousness and face our enemies with fortitude. Peace.